In a galaxy built on peace, no one remembered how to fight until the shadows came. As crystalline cities burned and ancient stars wept, a single desperate signal echoed into the void, calling for salvation. No one expected an answer from a world long forgotten, but from the death world called Earth came warriors, hardened by chaos, forged in conflict, and they didn't come to negotiate. They came to end the war. The desperate call. The morning light of 3 suns painted the crystal spires of New Harmony in brilliant shades of gold and silver. Dr. Lyra Solis stood at the observation deck of the Central Research Tower, watching the daily rhythm of her peaceful world unfold below. The Zephyrians moved gracefully through their floating garden cities, their translucent skin catching the light like living prisms. For 8,000 years, her people had dedicated themselves to knowledge, art, and the pursuit of universal harmony. Today, that perfect peace was about to shatter forever. Dr. Solis, the urgent voice of her research assistant, Kale, echoed through the crystalline corridors. You need to see this immediately. The deep space sensors are detecting something massive approaching our system. Lyra's 3 hearts began beating faster as she rushed to the sensor array. The holographic display showed a sight that chilled her to the core. Hundreds of dark, angular ships were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of their system, their hulls absorbing light like hungry shadows. She recognized the distinctive design immediately from the Galactic database. The Void Syndicate, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the humming of the equipment. But they've never ventured this far into the outer rim before. Kale's normally bright azure complexion had turned pale with fear. The fleet consists of over 600 vessels, including 3 Devastator-class world killers. Dr. Solis, they're heading directly for New Harmony. The Void Syndicate had earned its terrifying reputation across the galaxy. Unlike other aggressive species that conquered for resources or territory, the Syndicate seemed to destroy purely for the joy of destruction. They had wiped out 17 civilizations in the past century, leaving nothing but dead worlds and scattered debris in their wake. Have you sent distress signals to the Galactic Peacekeeping Union? Lyra asked, though she already knew the answer would bring no hope. Yes, but their nearest response fleet is 3 weeks away. The Syndicate will reach us in less than 2 days. Kale's voice cracked with desperation. Dr. Solis, what do we do? Our people have never fought a war. We don't even have weapons. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her entire civilization's survival pressing down on her shoulders. The Zephyrians had always believed that intelligence and diplomacy could solve any conflict. They had never needed to learn the brutal art of warfare. Their most advanced technology was dedicated to healing, research, and environmental harmony. Then she remembered something from her archaeological studies. Deep in the archives of the ancient vault, there was a device that the original Zephyrian settlers had discovered when they first arrived on this world. It was called the Beacon of Last Hope, created by a long-extinct civilization that had once spanned the galaxy. Kyle, gather the Council of Elders. Tell them to meet me at the ancient vault immediately, and prepare the emergency broadcast system. Ancient vault lay beneath the oldest crystal spire in the capital city. As Lyra descended the spiral staircase carved from living rock, she could feel the age of the place pressing around her. The walls were covered with symbols and writings, from dozens of different species, all of them now extinct. At the center of the deepest chamber stood the Beacon of Last Hope. It looked almost insignificant, a simple crystalline device about the size of a human head, glowing with a soft inner light. According to the ancient texts, it was designed to send a distress signal across the entire galaxy, calling for help from any species capable of providing aid. The original builders had included one warning: use only in the darkest hour, for those who answer may not be what you expect. The Council of Elders arrived within minutes, their robes of office flowing behind them as they gathered around the ancient artifact. Eldervex, the oldest among them, spoke first. Dr. Solis, you cannot be serious about activating this device. We know nothing about what it might summon. The legends speak of warriors from the darkest corners of space, beings who live for conflict and destruction. Elder Vex, Lyra replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. In 18 hours, The Void Syndicate will begin bombarding our world. They will kill every Zephyrian, destroy every city, and turn our beautiful world into another dead rock floating in space. At this point, any help is better than certain extinction. The debate continued for precious minutes, but eventually, the council reached their decision. With trembling hands, Lyra placed her palms on the beacon's surface and channeled her life energy into it. The device began to pulse with increasing intensity, and suddenly, a wave of energy erupted from it, spreading outward faster than light itself. The message was simple but desperate. To any who receive this signal, the Zephyrian civilization faces total annihilation. We are a peaceful people with no weapons, no warriors, and no hope. The Void Syndicate approaches with overwhelming force. If there is anyone in the galaxy who values life and justice, please help us. We offer all our knowledge and technology in exchange for survival. The signal raced across the galaxy, reaching countless worlds and species. Most ignored it, either too afraid of the Void Syndicate or simply unwilling to risk their own safety for strangers. Others were too far away to provide assistance in time. But in a small yellow star system on the galaxy's edge, the message was received by a species that had never been contacted before. Captain Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderstrike, studying the translation of the alien distress call. The 38-year-old veteran had seen plenty of action during the colonial wars, but this was something entirely different. First contact with an alien civilization, and they were calling for help. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Jessica Park, his communications officer, "we've confirmed the signal's authenticity. It's coming from a system about 47 light-years from Earth. Our databases show no prior contact with this species." "What do we know about these Zephyrians?" Stone asked, his weathered face creased with concern. "Based on their message, they appear to be a peaceful, scientifically advanced civilization. They're offering complete technological exchange in return for military assistance against something called the Void Syndicate." Stone's tactical officer, Major Alex Rodriguez, pulled up what information they had on the attacking force. "Sir, based on the energy signatures we're detecting, this Void Syndicate is packing some serious firepower. The Zephyrians are right. They're completely outgunned." "Captain," interrupted the ship's AI area, "I've completed my analysis of the distress signal. The Zephyrians have technology that surpasses our own in several key areas, including energy generation, medical science, and materials engineering. An alliance with them could advance human civilization by decades." Stone walked to the main viewport, looking out at the stars. Humanity had always been alone in the universe, struggling to survive on their harsh homeworld and slowly expanding to nearby systems. The discovery of alien life had been the dream of scientists for centuries. Now they had found it, and it was asking for help. "Sir," said Commander Park, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Admiral Sarah Chen's image appeared on the main screen. The 60-year-old fleet admiral had overseen humanity's expansion into space for the past 2 decades. Her expression was grave as she addressed Stone's crew. "Captain Stone, you're to proceed to the Zephyrian system immediately. The Joint Chiefs have authorized Operation Guardian Angel. You'll be joined by the 2nd Fleet under Admiral Voss. Our mission is to provide military assistance to the Zephyrians and establish formal diplomatic relations." "Admiral," Stone replied, "what about the Void Syndicate? Our intelligence suggests they're significantly more advanced than us." Chen's expression hardened. "Captain, humanity didn't survive the last ice age, 2 world wars, and the colony rebellions by backing down from a fight. We've spent our entire history learning to adapt, overcome, and win against overwhelming odds. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do." The transmission ended, and Stone turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Set course for the Zephyrian system, maximum burn, and send a message to our new alien friends. The cavalry is coming." The Thunderstrike engaged its fusion drives and leaped into hyperspace, followed by the rest of the human fleet. Behind them, Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to prepare additional vessels for humanity's first interstellar war. In the Zephyrian system, Dr. Lyra Solis received the human response with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The message was brief, but confident. Zephyrian friends, this is Captain Marcus Stone of the United Earthship Thunderstrike. We have received your distress call and are en route to your system. Hold on. Humanity is coming to help. As she shared the news with her people, Lyra couldn't help but wonder what kind of beings these humans were. Their message carried a tone of absolute confidence, as if facing impossible odds was nothing new to them. According to their brief data packet, they came from a world they called a death world, a planet so harsh that life itself was a constant struggle for survival. The Zephyrians had 16 hours before the Void Syndicate arrived, and perhaps 24 hours before these mysterious humans reached their system. All they could do was wait and hope that the beacon of last hope had truly brought them salvation rather than another form of destruction. High above New Harmony, the first Void Syndicate scout ships entered the outer system, their sensors probing the peaceful world below. Soon, the galaxy would witness a battle between the forces of destruction and the unlikely alliance of a peaceful civilization and the warriors from a death world. The stage was set for humanity's introduction to galactic society, and it would be written in fire and starlight. When Deathworlders unite, the Void Syndicate fleet hung in space like a malevolent storm cloud, their dark ships absorbing the light of the three suns. Supreme Overlord Nexus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Entropy's Edge, savoring the moment before destruction. His species, the Nethrek, had evolved in the void between galaxies, and they found beauty only in endings. "Report," he commanded, his voice a sibilant whisper that carried across the bridge. "The target world shows no military installations, no weapons platforms, no defensive fleets," replied his tactical officer. "Just as the intelligence reports indicated, these Zephyrians are completely defenseless." Nexus smiled, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. "Excellent. Begin the bombardment in 6 hours. I want to savor their fear before we—" "Sir," interrupted the communications officer, "we're detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. Unknown vessels are entering the system." The main display shifted to show 43 ships dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They were unlike anything in the Syndicate's databases, angular, purely functional designs with no elegant curves or artistic elements. The hulls appeared to be made of simple metal alloys, primitive compared to the energy-based construction methods used by most galactic civilizations. "Who dares interfere with the Void Syndicate?" Nexus snarled. The answer came in the form of a transmission from the lead vessel. The face that appeared on screen was unlike any species the Nethrek had encountered. The being had pale pink skin, dark hair, and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of countless battles. When he spoke, his voice carried an authority that commanded attention. "This is Admiral Elena Voss of the United Earth Fleet. You are commanded to withdraw from this system immediately. The Zephyrian people are under human protection." Nexus laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Humans, we have no record of your species. You appear to be primitives using metal ships and chemical propulsion. Withdraw now or be destroyed along with these pathetic peacekeepers." Admiral Voss's expression didn't change. "You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing, or we will remove you by force." The transmission ended, leaving Nexus staring at the screen in amazement. Never in his 3 centuries of conquest had anyone threatened the Void Syndicate so directly. These humans seemed to have no concept of their own insignificance. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human ships are moving into attack formation. They're actually approaching us." Nexus watched in fascination as the human fleet advanced directly toward his vastly superior force. Their tactics made no sense. Every civilized species knew that space combat was conducted at maximum range with energy weapons. These humans were closing to point-blank range, apparently intending to use their primitive projectile weapons. "All ships," Nexus commanded. "Target the human fleet. Show them the price of defying the Syndicate." The Void Syndicate's energy weapons opened fire, filling space with deadly beams of concentrated plasma. The human ships took the hits on their forward shields, several smaller vessels disappearing in explosions of light and debris. But the rest kept coming, their formation tightening as they charged into the teeth of the enemy fire. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Admiral Voss felt the ship shudder as enemy fire struck their shields. "Damage report. Forward shields down to 60%, called out her tactical officer. "The Lincoln and the Gettysburg have been destroyed. The rest of the fleet is maintaining formation." "Good," Voss replied calmly. "All ships prepare for close-range engagement. Launch all fighters and activate the railgun batteries." Space suddenly filled with hundreds of small craft launching from the human capital ships. The fighters moved in tight formations, their pilots performing maneuvers that should have been impossible under the tremendous G-forces involved. They dove into the enemy formation like a school of predatory fish, their rapid-fire weapons seeking out critical systems on the larger Syndicate vessels. "Commander?" Sarah Chen led Phoenix Squadron in their attack run against the enemy flagship. Her fighter screamed through space at maximum burn, enemy fire lighting up the darkness around her. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader. Target the command ship's sensor array. We're going to blind this monster." Her 24 fighters followed her into the maelstrom of enemy fire, their pilots pushing their aircraft and themselves to the limit. The Zephyrians watching from their crystal cities below could hardly believe what they were seeing. These humans fought with a ferocity and precision that defied comprehension. "Phoenix 3, you've got 2 bandits on your tail," Chen called. "Out. I see them, Leader." "Phoenix 7, you're clear to engage." The coordinated response was immediate. Phoenix 7 rolled inverted and fired a burst that destroyed both pursuing enemy fighters. The human pilots fought as a single organism, each one covering the others while pressing their attack. Meanwhile, the main human fleet had closed to optimal range for their kinetic weapons. The railguns opened fire with a sound like thunder, sending projectiles the size of telephone poles across space at significant fractions of light speed. The Void Syndicate's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma beams and particle weapons, were useless against solid matter moving at such tremendous velocities. The first railgun rounds struck the entropy's edge with devastating effect. The Xiao kinetic energy punched through the ship's hull like paper, sending shockwaves through the massive vessel. Systems failed throughout the ship as the humans continued their relentless bombardment. "Impossible!" Nexus screamed as his flagship shook around him. "How are they penetrating our shields?" "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "their weapons are physical projectiles moving at extreme velocity. Our shields were not designed to stop solid matter at such speeds." The battle was turning into a slaughter, but not in the way anyone had expected. The smaller human fleet was systematically destroying the much larger Syndicate force through superior tactics and weapons designed for one purpose: killing other ships as efficiently as possible. Down on the surface of New Harmony, Dr. Lyra Solis watched the battle through the city's sensor networks. The humans fought with a brutal efficiency that both amazed and terrified her. Their ships were built like fortresses, designed to take tremendous damage and keep fighting. When one was disabled, the crew would often ram it into an enemy vessel, rather than surrender. "Dr. Solis," Kale said, his voice filled with awe. "The humans have destroyed over 200 Syndicate ships. They're winning." But the battle was far from over. Several Syndicate troop transports had broken through the human lines and were heading for the planet's surface. The Zephyrians had no ground defenses, no weapons, no way to resist an invasion. That's when the second wave of human ships arrived. Captain Marcus Stone's voice crackled over the communication system. "New Harmony, this is Captain Stone. We're deploying ground forces to protect your cities. Keep your people in sheltered areas until we've secured the landing zones." The human dropships descended through the atmosphere like falling stars, their heat shields glowing white-hot. Inside the lead transport, Sergeant Jake Morrison checked, his weapon one final time. The 32-year-old Marine had fought in the brutal urban combat of the colony wars, but this would be his first battle against aliens. "Listen up, Marines," he called out to his squad. "Intelligence says these Syndicate troops are tough, but they're used to fighting civilians. They've never faced humans in ground combat. Show them what happens when they threaten innocents." The eye. Dropships landed just as the first Syndicate forces reached the outskirts of New Harmony. The alien invaders were massive insectoid creatures with natural armor plating and razor-sharp claws. They moved in loose formations expecting to face helpless civilians. Instead, they encountered human Marines who had turned warfare into a science. Morrison's squad took position in the crystal gardens outside the city, using the terrain to their advantage. The Syndicate troops advanced confidently, their natural weapons gleaming in the sunlight. They had conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics. Overwhelming force applied without mercy. "Wait for it," Morrison whispered into his radio. "Let them get close." The alien warriors charged forward, their war cries echoing across the crystalline landscape. When they reached the kill zone, Morrison gave the order. "Now!" The humans opened fire with weapons that the Syndicate had never encountered. High-velocity ammunition designed to penetrate the heaviest armor struck the charging aliens with devastating effect. The first wave of attackers was cut down before they could close to melee range. But the Syndicate troops adapted quickly, using their natural agility to seek cover among the crystal formations. The battle became a deadly game of cat and mouse, with both sides using every advantage the terrain provided. "Sergeant Morrison," came a voice over his radio. "This is Dr. Solace. My people are monitoring the battle from our command center. We can provide you with detailed maps of the area and thermal imaging of enemy positions." "Much appreciated, Doc," Morrison replied, ducking as enemy plasma fire shattered a crystal tree next to his position. "We could use all the help we can get." The partnership between human warriors and Zephyrian intelligence proved devastatingly effective. The aliens' advanced sensors could track enemy movements through the crystal formations, while the humans provided the firepower and tactical expertise to eliminate the threats. As the ground battle raged, the space combat reached its climax. Admiral Voss's fleet had reduced the Void Syndicate force to less than 100 ships, but those remaining vessels were the most powerful in their fleet. The Entropy's Edge, despite severe damage, was still operational and extremely dangerous. "All ships," Voss commanded. "Concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. We end this now." The human fleet converged on the Syndicate command ship like a pack of wolves bringing down a massive prey animal. Railgun rounds, missiles, and laser fire struck the vessel from all directions. The ship's hull began to buckle under the tremendous punishment atmosphere venting from dozens of breaches. On the bridge of the dying ship, Supreme Overlord Nexus stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His mighty fleet had been destroyed by a fraction of its number of primitive metal ships. As the final salvo of human weapons struck his vessel, he had only one thought. These humans were not primitives at all. They were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever produced. The Entropy's Edge exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking the Supreme Overlord and his dreams of conquest with it. The remaining Syndicate ships, leaderless and demoralized, began to flee the system. Admiral Voss let them go. The message had been sent. Down on the surface, Sergeant Morrison's Marines had secured the landing zones and were helping with the evacuation of wounded Syndicate troops. Even in victory, the humans showed mercy to their defeated enemies, a concept that amazed the watching Zephyrians. Dr. Lyra Solace stood in the ruins of what had once been a peaceful garden, looking at the human soldiers who had saved her world. They were smaller than she had expected, their equipment functional rather than elegant, but they had fought with a courage and determination that had turned the tide of an impossible battle. "Captain Stone," she said as the human commander approached, "my people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You saved our entire civilization." Stone removed his helmet, revealing a face marked by battle, but not hardened by it. "Dr. Solace, that's what neighbors do for each other. We couldn't just stand by and watch innocent people be destroyed." As the three suns set over New Harmony, casting long shadows across the crystal spires, a new chapter in galactic history was beginning. The peaceful Zephyrians had learned that sometimes survival required the willingness to fight, while the humans had discovered that they were not alone in the universe. The galaxy would never be the same. The New Galactic Alliance 3. Months after the Battle of New Harmony, the Zephyrian system had become the most important diplomatic hub in the galaxy. Ships from dozens of different species arrived daily, their crews eager to meet the mysterious humans who had defeated the seemingly invincible Void Syndicate. Dr. Lyra Solis stood in her new office aboard the orbital station Unity-1, a joint, human Zephyrian construction that served as the headquarters for their growing alliance. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the constant traffic of ships coming and going. The peaceful isolation her people had once cherished was gone forever, but in its place had come something she was beginning to believe was far more valuable: true friendship with beings who understood the cost of freedom. "Dr. Solis," came the familiar voice of Captain Marcus Stone as he entered her office. "The Altarian delegation has arrived. They're requesting immediate sanctuary from Syndicate retaliation raids." Lyra turned from the window, her expression troubled. "That's the 7th species this month. Marcus, I'm beginning to understand something my people never realized. Peace isn't a natural state in the galaxy. It's something that must be actively defended." Stone nodded, his weathered face showing the strain of the past months. Since the battle, he had been promoted to admiral and placed in charge of the joint human-Zephyrian defense forces. The responsibility of protecting multiple species from the remnants of the Void Syndicate and other aggressive civilizations was weighing heavily on his shoulders. "The Syndicate survivors have been busy," he said, settling into a chair designed to accommodate both human and Zephyrian physiology. "They've been telling every aggressive species in the galaxy that humans can be beaten if they're outnumbered. Enough. We're starting to see probe attacks on our outer patrols." "But surely the galaxy's peaceful species will help us maintain order?" Lyra asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Most of them are too afraid to take sides," Stone replied. "They've survived this long by avoiding conflict, not by standing up to bullies. Dr. Solis, I need to ask you something important. Are your people truly committed to this alliance? Because what we're building here is going to make us permanent targets." Lyra considered the question carefully. In the months since the battle, the Zephyrians had been forced to confront uncomfortable truths about the galaxy they lived in. Their beautiful crystal cities were now protected by human defense platforms. Their research stations were guarded by human marines. Their children were learning basic military tactics alongside their traditional studies in art and science. "Marcus," she said finally, "before you arrived, my people believed that intelligence and goodwill could solve any problem. We learned that we were wrong. There are forces in this galaxy that understand only strength. If we want to preserve our way of life, we must be willing to defend it." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Sarah Chen, who had been promoted to lead the Joint Fighter Wing. The former Phoenix Squadron leader brought with her a Zephyrian pilot named Vel, one of the first aliens to qualify for human flight training. "Admiral Stone," Chen reported, "we've completed the first phase of integrated pilot training. I have to say the Zephyrians are naturals at this. Their reaction times are actually faster than human baseline." Vel, a young Zephyrian whose natural grace had translated perfectly to fighter combat, spoke up. "Commander Chen, my people are honored to serve alongside human pilots. You have taught us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it." Stone smiled at the young alien pilot. The integration of human and Zephyrian forces had been remarkably smooth, largely because both species shared similar values despite their different approaches to conflict. The Zephyrians brought advanced technology and analytical minds, while the humans contributed tactical expertise and the willingness to make hard decisions. "Sir," Chen continued, "we've also received a communication from the Meridian Confederacy. They're requesting a formal defense pact. Apparently, the hegemony of Krell is massing ships near their border." "The hegemony again?" Stone frowned. "That's the 3rd time this month they've threatened someone. They're testing us, seeing how far we'll extend our protection." Dr. Solis activated the holographic display in her office, showing a map of the local galactic region. Green markers indicated species under the protection of the Human-Zephyrian Alliance, while red markers showed known hostile civilizations. The pattern was clear. The Alliance was being surrounded by enemies who saw their success as a threat to the established order. "We're becoming the galaxy's police force," Lyra observed. "Is that what we want?" "It's not about what we want," Stone replied. It's about what's necessary. The galaxy has been dominated by fear for too long. Species either conquer or cower with nothing in between. We're offering a third option: cooperation and mutual defense. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent signal from the communication center. Lieutenant Park's voice crackled over the intercom. Admiral Stone, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Voss is requesting an immediate conference. The image of Admiral Elena Voss appeared on the main display, her expression more serious than usual. Behind her, Stone could see the busy bridge of the UES Retribution, which had become the flagship of humanity's expanding galactic presence. Admiral Stone, Voss began without preamble. We've received intelligence that the Syndicate remnants are forming a coalition with the hegemony of Krell and the Savage Worlds Alliance. They're calling it the Dominion of Strength, and their stated goal is the elimination of what they're calling the human contamination of galactic civilization. Stone felt a chill run down his spine. The Savage Worlds Alliance alone controlled over 2,000 star systems. Combined with the Syndicate's remaining forces and the hegemony's technological advantage, they would face a threat far greater than anything they had encountered before. What are their numbers? He asked. Conservative. Estimates put their combined fleet strength at over 10,000 ships, Voss replied. They're mobilizing for a massive assault on our allied systems. Intelligence suggests they plan to hit us simultaneously at multiple points, spreading our forces too thin to respond effectively. Dr. Salas had gone pale at the numbers. 10,000 ships? Marcus, we have barely 200 vessels, even counting the Allied fleets. How can we possibly stand against such odds? The same way humanity has always survived, Stone replied grimly. We adapt, we innovate, and we refuse to give up. Admiral Voss, what's the status of the shipyard projects? The joint construction facilities are coming online ahead of schedule, Voss reported. The combination of human engineering and Zephyrian technology is producing ships that are better than anything either of us could build alone. The first of the new Defiant-class cruisers will be ready for trials next week. And the other projects? The Galileo Research Station has made significant breakthroughs in shield technology. Dr. Martinez believes we can create defensive fields that will stop even the hegemony's quantum torpedoes. The weapons development program is also showing promise. The new gravitic mines should give us a significant advantage in defensive engagements. Stone nodded, his strategic mind already working on the problem. Admiral, I want you to begin Operation Fortress. Start fortifying our key systems with the new defensive platforms. We're going to make them pay for every light year they advance. Understood. Stone, there's one more thing. The Galactic Council has finally agreed to hear our petition for membership. They're convening a special session next week. This was potentially the most important development yet. The Galactic Council was the closest thing to a central government that the galaxy possessed. Their support could legitimize the human-Zephyrian alliance and bring in additional allies. Their opposition could isolate humanity and make their enemies bolder. Who's representing us? Stone asked. You are, Voss replied with a slight smile. Congratulations, Admiral. You're about to become humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy. After the communication ended, Stone turned to find Dr. Salas looking at him with a mixture of pride and concern. Marcus, the council chambers will be filled with representatives from species that have ruled the galaxy for millennia. They're not going to appreciate being lectured by humans about galactic affairs. Then we won't lecture them, Stone replied. We'll show them what we've accomplished. Lyra, I want you to come with me. They need to see that this alliance isn't about human dominance. It's about species working together as equals. The preparations for the council meeting took several days. Stone and Dr. Salas were joined by representatives from the other species that had joined their alliance: the Altarians, the Meridian Confederacy, the Stellar Republic of Vega, and 6 others. Together, they would present a united front to the galaxy's most powerful leaders. The Galactic Council chambers were located on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, a planet that had been terraformed specifically to serve as a meeting ground for the galaxy's diverse species. The great amphitheater could accommodate over 500 delegates, each representing a different civilization. As Stone and his delegation entered the chamber, He could feel the weight of countless eyes upon them. Many of the assembled representatives had never seen a human before, and their reactions ranged from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. The humans were clearly being evaluated as potential threats or opportunities. The session was called to order by Chancellor Zerion, an ancient being whose species had been among the founders of the Council 3 millennia ago. His voice carried the authority of ages as he addressed the assembly. We are gathered here today to consider the petition of the species known as humans for membership in the Galactic Council. This petition is unusual in that it is supported by a coalition of species rather than a single world government. Admiral Stone of the United Earth Fleet, you may present your case. Stone rose from his seat, feeling the weight of history upon his shoulders. The next few minutes would determine whether humanity would be accepted into galactic civilization or branded as outlaws and enemies. Honored Chancellor, esteemed delegates, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. I stand before you not as a conqueror or a suppliant, but as a representative of a new way of thinking about galactic civilization. For too long, the galaxy has been divided between the strong and the weak, the predators and the prey. We propose a third path: cooperation between equals, mutual defense, and shared prosperity. A ripple of murmurs ran through the assembly. Several delegates looked skeptical, while others seemed intrigued by the humans' words. The Human-Zephyrian Alliance has proven that species with vastly different cultures and capabilities can work together effectively, Stone continued. In 3 months, we have not only defended multiple worlds from aggression, but have also shared our technologies freely with our allies. We seek not dominion, but partnership. Representative Keth of the Vorthan Empire, a militaristic species known for their aggressive expansion, spoke up. Admiral Stone, your species defeated the Void Syndicate through superior firepower and tactics. What prevents you from using those same capabilities to conquer rather than protect? Stone had expected this question. Representative Keth, humanity learned long ago that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction is necessary and when it is not. We fight only when others refuse to allow peace to exist. Dr. Solace rose to stand beside Stone. If I may add to Admiral Stone's words, she said, her musical voice carrying easily through the chamber, my people, the Zephyrians, were once like many species here today. We believed that intelligence and goodwill were sufficient to guarantee peace. The humans taught us that sometimes peace must be defended with force, but they also showed us that warriors can be protectors rather than conquerors. Chancellor Zerion studied the human delegation carefully. Admiral Stone, your alliance has indeed shown remarkable success in a short time. However, we have received reports that your methods are unusually aggressive. The survivors of the Void Syndicate fleet described tactics that border on savagery. Stone's expression hardened slightly. Chancellor, with respect, the Void Syndicate came to the Zephyrian system with the intention of committing genocide. They had already destroyed 17 civilizations. When faced with such evil, half measures are not sufficient. We used the force necessary to stop them, nothing more. And yet, interjected Ambassador Rel of the Pacifist Coalition, violence breeds violence. Your actions have destabilized the entire sector. Multiple aggressive species are now mobilizing against you. They're mobilizing because they're afraid, Stone replied firmly. For the first time in their existence, they face consequences for their aggression. The galaxy has tolerated bullies for too long because no one was willing to stand up to them. We are. The debate continued for hours, with delegates raising questions about human intentions, capabilities, and long-term goals. Some species expressed interest in joining the alliance, while others worried about the implications of supporting such a militaristic approach to galactic affairs. Finally, Chancellor Zerion called for a recess to allow the council to deliberate. Stone and his delegation were escorted to a waiting area, where they could only hope that their arguments had been persuasive enough. Do you think we convinced them? Asked Dr. Solace as they waited in the sterile chamber. Some of them, Stone replied. But I think the real test will come when the Dominion of Strength makes their move. The Council will judge us by our actions, not our words. Their wait was interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected visitor. Ambassador Thane of the Kronar Republic, one of the galaxy's most powerful military civilizations, entered the chamber with his bodyguards. The reptilian warrior diplomat was known for his direct approach to problems. "Admiral Stone," Thane said without preamble, "my government has been watching your alliance with great interest. We have a proposition for you." "I'm listening," Stone replied cautiously. "The Kronar Republic has been fighting a border war with the hegemony of Krell for 50 years. They are now part of this dominion of strength that threatens you. We propose a military alliance. Our fleets combined with yours could break this new coalition before they can launch their offensive." Stone considered the offer carefully. The Kronar Republic had one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, but they were also known for their aggressive territorial expansion. An alliance with them could solve the immediate threat, but might create larger problems down the road. "Ambassador Thane, what would the Kronar Republic expect in return for this alliance?" "Access to your military technologies and tactical innovations," Thane replied honestly, "and recognition of our territorial claims in the disputed sectors." Dr. Solace looked alarmed at the proposal, but before she could speak, Stone raised his hand. "Ambassador, I appreciate your offer, but we can't support territorial expansion based on military conquest. However, I'm willing to discuss a more limited arrangement, mutual defense and technology sharing in exchange for your assistance against the Dominion." Thane's scaled features showed surprise. "You would refuse territorial gains? Most species would leap at the chance to expand their influence." "Most species haven't learned the lessons humanity has," Stone replied. "Conquest creates more enemies than it eliminates. We're interested in building something that will last, not in grabbing whatever we can while we're strong." Before Thane could respond, the chamber doors opened, and Chancellor Zarian entered with several other council leaders. Their expressions were unreadable as they took their seats across from the human delegation. "Admiral Stone," the Chancellor began, "the Council has reached a decision regarding your petition. By a narrow margin, we have voted to grant humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Council, with full membership to be considered after a trial period of 2 years. Stone felt a surge of relief and pride. Humanity had taken its first official step into galactic civilization, but the Chancellor wasn't finished. "However," Zarian continued, "this membership comes with conditions. You must demonstrate that your alliance can maintain peace without resorting to excessive force. You must also prove that you can work within the established framework of galactic law rather than imposing your own solutions." "We understand, Chancellor," Stone replied. "We are honored by the Council's trust and will work to prove ourselves worthy of it." As the formal ceremonies concluded and the various delegations began to disperse, Stone found himself approached by representatives from nearly a dozen different species. Some wanted to discuss trade agreements, others were interested in defensive pacts, and a few were clearly attempting to gather intelligence about human capabilities. The most significant conversation came from an unexpected source. Elder Yarix of the Contemplative Order, a monastic species known for their wisdom and neutrality, approached Stone as he prepared to leave the chambers. "Admiral Stone," the aged being said in a voice like rustling leaves, "my order has observed galactic civilization for over 4,000 years. We have seen empires rise and fall, species ascend to greatness and descend into obscurity. Your species shows characteristics we have rarely encountered." "What characteristics are those, Elder?" Stone asked respectfully. "The ability to fight without becoming consumed by warfare, to show mercy without becoming weak, and to inspire others without dominating them. These are rare gifts in the galaxy. Use them wisely." The journey back to the Zephyrian system took 3 days, during which Stone and his team received constant updates about the growing threat from the Dominion of Strength. The enemy coalition was indeed massing forces on multiple fronts, preparing for simultaneous strikes against Alliance territory. Upon their return to Unity Station, Stone immediately convened a meeting of the Alliance military leadership. Admiral Voss participated via hologram from the Retribution, while Dr. Solace represented the Zephyrian scientific community. Also present were the military commanders from the various allied species, creating a truly diverse gathering of minds and perspectives. "The intelligence reports are clear," Admiral Voss began, activating the holographic display. "The Dominion is planning a three-pronged assault. The main force will strike at New Harmony, trying to destroy the symbolic heart of our alliance. Secondary forces will attack the Altarian homeworld and the Meridian shipyards. Their goal is to cripple our ability to coordinate a defense." Commander Chen studied the tactical display. "Their strategy is sound. If they can take out our command center and production facilities simultaneously, they can defeat our scattered forces in detail." "Then we don't scatter our forces," Stone said decisively. "We're going to do something they won't expect. We're going to concentrate our entire fleet for a decisive battle." Dr. Salas looked surprised. "Marcus, that would leave our other worlds defenseless." "Not defenseless," Stone replied with a slight smile. "Fortified." "Lyra, how many of the new defensive platforms are operational?" "The fabrication systems have produced over 200 units," she reported. "Each one has the firepower of a heavy cruiser and the defensive capabilities to withstand sustained bombardment. And the gravitic minefields? Fully deployed around all our key systems. Any fleet trying to approach will have to navigate through weapons that can tear apart a dreadnought." Stone turned to the assembled commanders. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings, we're going to let them come to us. The Dominion expects us to spread our forces thin trying to defend everything. Instead, we're going to make them pay such a heavy price for each system that they'll break themselves against our defenses." The plan that emerged from the strategy session was audacious in its simplicity. The Alliance fleet would be divided into 3 rapid response groups, each capable of reinforcing any threatened system within hours. The fixed defenses would hold off the initial assault, while the mobile forces maneuvered to strike at the most vulnerable enemy formations. Over the following weeks, the Alliance worlds transformed into fortresses. Human military engineers worked alongside Zephyrian technicians to create defensive networks that turned entire star systems into death traps for invading fleets. The new shield technologies could protect planets from orbital bombardment, while the weapon platforms provided covering fire for any ships that managed to break through. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Martinez, the human physicist working at the Galileo Research Station, made a discovery that would change the nature of space combat forever. By combining human knowledge of exotic matter with Zephyrian understanding of quantum mechanics, he had created a weapon that could disable enemy ships without destroying them. "We're calling it the pacification field," Martinez explained during a briefing at Unity Station. "It creates a localized disruption in subspace that shuts down all electronic systems within a defined area. Ships caught in the field become completely helpless but remain intact." Stone immediately grasped the implications. How large an area can it affect? Currently about 50 kilometers in diameter, but we're working on scaling it up. Theoretically, we could disable an entire fleet with a single deployment. This changed everything. The Alliance would not have to destroy the Dominion fleets. They could capture them intact, potentially turning enemy ships and crews into allies. It was a solution that appealed to both human tactical thinking and Zephyrian desire to minimize casualties. The first test of the new strategy came sooner than expected. A Dominion scout force of 200 ships entered the Altarian system, apparently conducting reconnaissance for the main assault. They encountered what appeared to be a lightly defended world with only a few patrol vessels and orbital platforms. The trap was sprung perfectly. As the enemy ships closed on the planet, the hidden minefields activated, destroying nearly 50 vessels in the first few seconds. The survivors found themselves facing not the weak defenses they had expected, but a coordinated network of weapons platforms that filled space with deadly fire. When the Altarian defense fleet arrived to mop up the survivors, they found most of the remaining enemy ships disabled by pacification fields rather than destroyed. The crews were taken prisoner, and the ships were added to the Alliance fleet after thorough inspection and modification. News of the one-sided victory spread quickly through the galaxy. The Dominion had lost an entire scout force without inflicting a single casualty on the Alliance. More importantly, the psychological impact was enormous. For the first time, an aggressive species had been defeated without being annihilated, The main assault came 2 weeks later, and it was everything the intelligence reports had predicted. Over 3,000 ships struck at New Harmony, while secondary forces attacked the other Alliance worlds. The largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin, but this time, the galaxy's bullies faced opponents who had learned from humanity's greatest teachers: history, necessity, and the absolute determination to protect what they held dear. As Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the newly completed Alliance flagship Harmony's shield, watching the massive enemy fleet approach, he felt the weight of countless civilizations' hopes resting on his shoulders. Behind him stood Dr. Solace, her presence a reminder of what they were fighting to protect. "All ships," Stone announced over the fleet communication system. "This is Admiral Stone. Today we fight not for conquest or glory, but for the right of peaceful species to exist without fear. Today we prove that the galaxy belongs to all of us, not just to those with the biggest guns. All ships, engage." The Battle of New Harmony began with a sound like thunder as 2,000 Alliance ships opened fire on the approaching Dominion fleet. But this time, instead of seeking to destroy their enemies, they fought to save them from themselves. The galaxy watched in amazement as the seemingly impossible happened. A massive fleet was defeated not through superior firepower, but through superior wisdom. When the battle ended 12 hours later, over 2/3 of the Dominion ships had been captured intact, their crews becoming prisoners of war rather than casualties of war. In the aftermath of the victory, something unprecedented happened. The captured enemy commanders, expecting to be executed or enslaved, instead found themselves offered the chance to join the Alliance as equals. Many accepted, bringing their ships and crews over to the cause of galactic peace. The Dominion of Strength collapsed within months, its member species either joining the Alliance or retreating to lick their wounds and reconsider their aggressive policies. The galaxy had been fundamentally changed by the actions of a species that fought not to conquer, but to protect. 5 years later, Admiral Stone stood once again in the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, but this time as humanity's permanent representative, to a body that now included over 300 member species. The Galactic Council had evolved from a loose confederation of powerful civilizations into a true democratic government dedicated to protecting the rights of all species, regardless of their military capabilities. Dr. Solace, now serving as the Alliance's chief science officer, had established research stations throughout the galaxy where species shared knowledge freely for the betterment of all. The technologies that emerged from these collaborative efforts had advanced galactic civilization by centuries in just a few short years. The legacy of humanity's introduction to the galaxy was written not in the number of worlds conquered or enemies destroyed, but in the simple idea that strength should be used to protect the weak rather than exploit them. It was a lesson that the galaxy had desperately needed to learn, and it had come from the most unlikely source. A species from a death world that had learned to make war in order to preserve peace. As Stone looked out at the bustling activity of the council chambers, where representatives from hundreds of worlds worked together to solve the galaxy's problems through cooperation rather than conflict, he reflected on how far they had all come. The SOS that the Zephyrians had sent into the void had been answered not by peacekeepers but by warriors. But those warriors had brought with them something more valuable than weapons. They had brought hope. The galaxy was finally learning to live up to its potential, and humanity had found its place among the stars not as conquerors but as guardians of the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. It was, Stone thought, exactly what his species had always been meant to be. The end of one story, but the beginning of countless others as the galaxy entered a new age of cooperation, exploration, and shared prosperity under the protection of those who had learned that the greatest strength of all was knowing when not to use it. If you like this story, please like it and leave your feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more stories.